Hello party people, welcome to the show. My name's Relevant, and this is Do All the Things. On today's episode, an amplifier that needs little to no introduction. I will be taking it apart, changing some components, and talking a bit about it. Stay tuned. So let's start cutting into this thing, shall we? One thing that I'm doing today is I'm changing out this capacitor. That was a temporary measure and I intended to purchase a correct capacitor for it. I just never got around to it. And maybe I should have unsoldered it before I loosened the screw. Warning, no ground leak discharge. Okay, thank you for telling me that. I'm gonna put my probe into place and maybe just, oh yeah, there was a little bit of sparky in there. Okay, well, that's problem solved now. So we got this coming generally in the way. Oh, we've got 3 different wires trying to go into here. It's gonna be fun getting these wires back to normal after. For a temporary measure, I sure did a good job soldering it up. Not making my unsoldering job easy on me. And this bundle's in the way. I'll start burning out that cap if I take any longer getting this out. Okay, it's loose now. I should be able to just pull that out. Yep, there it is. Hopefully use that in another project. Alright, so because the last parts order that I did was not from a tube amp supply, I ended up with this guy. That's a big Kemet 100U 500 volt DC 105C rated, a little bit better than the ones you would stock put in here, and that's going to replace the dual 50 that, you know, in the schematic is ultimately bridged into a single 100. This is a single 100. Now it has screw terminals, so I had to run over to the hardware store, get myself some ring terminals and some screws. You got to be careful depending on the conditions. You don't want to throw any old screw into here. Those are aluminum terminals. They could rot if you mix the wrong metals and maybe too much beer gets spilt into your amp. Food for thought. It's hard to find aluminum M5 screws. This is a European made component. It says made in the EU. So I just ended up with the bog standard whatever you get at the hardware store. Hopefully I'll be good. There aren't a lot of aftermarket capacitors that fit into these positions, but this one does. Now first I have to get these ring terminals onto the respective wires that they're supposed to be on. That's going to be just a little bit tricky because of how these wires, the soldering kind of got a little bit of splatter muff and frayed, and I kind of have to heat it up and do one of these, with my fingers. Shape on it with the pliers a little bit, squishing down areas that still don't want to cooperate. At some point we should be able to get that on there. Oh boy. Oof. These wires are not doing well. I gotta trim these down and redo it. They've taken some abuse over the years. And I get in there with my stripper. Fortunately, there should be enough slack. Mind you, these wires are looking a little gray. Hopefully they're still gonna take solder. Oh yeah, for the most part, we're fine. Now let's slip the terminal on there. It's a touch long now. And I will not be crimping this. What I sometimes like to do with the ring terminals is heat them up with a torch until they take solder. Yes, the plastic gets a little bit, don't inhale that. Yeah. But it's better than crimping. That'll be good now. And it's still got a reach. And then our mains B+. Could also use a little bit of freshening up. So you gotta watch out with the old amps, you know, you start overworking on them. You don't have all that much slack to peel back if you need freshen things up. Now that is gonna kind of snoop down and around like that, so we want our ring terminal to orient this way. And again, let's get her hot and solder her in. Let's do some impedance checks. Want to make sure we have good connection here, sir. So between the ring terminal here, and I believe it's going to the switch right here. Oh. Well, that's within margin of error. How about this guy and where it goes to? Where does it go to? How do we follow that red wire, sir? Brown wire goes to the transformer. Red wire goes, over here. Nope. Over here. Nope. Wait, does that go straight out to the choke? Well, we're getting continuity from choke, so small victory. She'll be good. The last one is this little tiny ground wire hiding down in here. It's also going to need something resembling a connector on it. That is going to be tricky. Now, mind you, that solid wire, we could almost just wrap it around the binding post and call it a good. But you know we don't want to do that. You can barely see down there, can you? Now, if you want to make these look pretty, you can always remove the plastic off of them. Which is what I'm doing with this ground lug to make it way easier. And then I might be able to solder on it with a conventional iron. Let's try. Yeah, I definitely got that full of solder. And that actually went nicer than the torch method, so maybe do that instead. Alright, that capacitor is ready to be installed. I'm gonna go around back here, you're not gonna see it, but I'm gonna screw the clamp. Then we gotta construct a bit of a sandwich. I've got the screw, I've got the washer. I got a lock washer that's gonna go on the other side. Haha. Now where's a screwdriver, sir? Get that secured on there. Nice. Yeah, I think this is gonna work out pretty good. Finally, another screw. Now I gotta put these wires back the way they go. We've made this a bit tight. That was supposed to pivot around this way, but it still will. And this guy comes down around like this, so fun times. All right, get that on one, get it on two, get a lock washer in there, and get it onto that terminal. Now, aluminum, be careful how much torque you put into it, but part of the purpose of having aluminum electrical contacts is to, you know, just slightly deform it, just to say it's gonna not come loose on you. What I will do is I will drizzle some Loctite over top of these screws, you know, glue it all together. You don't have to put it on the threads, like, you can just put it on the outside of the screws like that, and then they're not gonna go anywhere. Except I think I need to orient it like this, let it dry up a bit. All right, moving on to the bias caps here. Those are gonna be tricky to get out, because we have to get underneath the board, which I've done before. I've obviously worked on the bottom side of this board before. I'm thinking of doing some other mods while I'm under there, but again, I have other amps if I want different sounds. I don't need to mod on this amp, and I kind of want to keep it mostly original, tone-wise at least. Even though, you know, I've got this document here called Bobo's Modified JCM800 2204. It shows recommended changes you can do, like, you know, adding a 0.68 here on the 820 R9 to get a little bit more mid. There's all sorts of interesting ideas. One that appeals to me is C14, C16, these guys here. 22N, replacing them with a 47N, which I have here. And it would replace these guys here to get a little bit better bass response. A lot of more modern amps, that's how they're doing it. I wouldn't mind if this amp had just a little bit more, you know? Then if I start doing that, I might as well start tinkering with this thing all out and see just how good or different I can make it sound. I'm gonna say, one thing you learn about the 800 when you own it is that it is slightly overrated. It's not a holy grail of tone. It's famous because it was an amp to do a certain thing first of the popular amps. Okay, so how, a little bit tricky, right? So that tube socket won't let us go this way. Some of this won't let us go this way. We have just barely enough access. Geez, how did I swap out that cap before? We have but one single solitary choke wire and a ground wire here, keeping us from flipping this all the way up. Now, it's right on the edge here, so hopefully I could just get in here with the iron, but then soldering the new how did I get at this? Like, how much did I take this apart? It seems that I clearly have removed this ground wire in the past. Oh, yeah, I can tell. That was back when I was still using ROS compliant solder. Oof. Back when I was a little bit more tree hugging attitude, be like, oh, my solder doesn't have lead. Yay, I feel special. But now it's like, I want solder with lead. It lasts. I'm not throwing this out. I haven't got to worry about the trees drinking my lead. Lead-free solders for cell phones and computer parts. Oh, you see, I disconnected all sorts of ground wires from here so that I could pivot this up. Okay, well, let's see if I can get those caps out. Let's see how much I can do with just this much access. Come on now. You should just pop. There we go. Pop. Old cap out one. Pop. Old cap out. Old cap out two. Except now we have to clean those holes. And that's, oh, two of them are clear already. That's nice. That's very nice. Maybe we can just do it like that. Oh, I got one of them. Fortunately, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of solder on those terminals. Where's my pin pricker? Okay, the holes, they are opened. I disbelieve. Yes, yes. Let's see if I can get those replacement caps into place because they're large. They're much larger. See, they're just about the right size. Oh, yeah, it's gonna be fine. I didn't want this lead to make contact with the can because, you know, if something goes wrong with this insulation, then it's gonna short out. But if they stay like that, it never will. So that's okay. Trick is to hard bend this down and then soft bend that one, kind of like that, and then let it sit where it wants with a bias towards the rear. No pun intended, you know, because they're bias caps. I found the bias stability on this amp was just a bit off. Just a bit off. I would set the bias and then it would drift over time. Now that could be a tube issue, but it could also be a bias issue because, you know, old caps, their values will change as heat is introduced to them. All right, let's see if we can tack some solder on those things. In this awkward angle, it's probably not worth changing the value of these other capacitors, not like this. We would have to really get in there. Okay, oh, this capacitor moved. You know what? Get this out of here because it's gonna get in the way. And we'll focus on getting this one into place. We need to hype this board up a bit, like maybe put a crossbar like this screwdriver. Oh, look at that. Isn't that nice? Okay. I can't see with both eyes, so my depth perception isn't working for me. How about if I do one of these? Oh yeah, bud, laid back. Except, get my iron in here. Oh, I missed. This'll work though. This'll work. All right. Okay, that's one. Let's do the other one now. So this isn't a full cap job. If you're watching this for the cap job, it's just like, well, sorry. It's only a partial cap job, replacing the two. One of them is hidden like under here, and you'd have to pull that board more out to get at it. So I'm thankful that I've done that already last time I was in here. All right, come on now. I don't like the way that's blobbing there. But that's in. Again, hurt the snips. All right. Now this pupper has a full set of fresh electrolytic capacitors. And there are no other electrolytics in here. Everything else is the other guys that you don't really care about. The other ones that it's okay if they wear out, because those ones will add to the tone as they wear. Not necessarily the tone you're gonna want, but those are not isolated. Why would they do that like that? That's not the way you want to do it nowadays, bud. That's ground loops. Yeah, I think we're done here. I don't want to go after those other capacitors. So let's get this back into place now. It should just push back down. And those holes should all just line up, right? Right? Brass screws into brass standoffs. That's nice. All right. So the resistors on the tube sockets. That is the next order of business. So I already have this separation going on here where, you know, if you could see, initially we had this little wire here connecting pin 1 and 8, and I lifted it because, well, I had to make that other connection, but I think I can clip that out all together now because we're not going to need it at all. It's just getting in the way. Well, we'll fold it down. We'll leave it. We'll just fold it down. As long as it's a solid wire, as long as it doesn't touch anything like the pin next to it, we'll be fine. Heck, it's been sitting there floaty for years now, bud. So this, we can pretty much leave as is. We have a ground connection, so we'll still have a mechanical connection when we remove the jack, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. What matters is we update these resistors to the 1 ohms. This is a tight space, man, especially for my big man fingers. It's gonna be, I think, floating a little bit above, quite like that one. We just gotta get it through those little holes. Unless I wanna go open up the other holes. Assuming we never have to take these out again, we're gonna do a nice wraparound. Oh, you can't even see, can you, bud? I'm sorry. Okay, let's tack her in there. Man, I've been meaning to do this mod forever. I'm actually well stocked on 1 ohm resistors because there's been several times that I've been in an electronic supply place. I'm like, oh, I should pick up some 1 ohm resistors for my my Marshall, and then I just don't end up installing it, and then I forget I bought those resistors. Problem is, I need a very small snip to get in there. Oh, okay, so we're bridging pin 1 and pin 8 with a 1 ohm resistor. I need to get some smaller snips. Okay, This area looks slightly more accessible here, so. Okay, so I think we got it. It's soldered in there now. And if I didn't mention it, these are what are called current sense resistors. Ha! Finally, after 1,000 years, I finished that mod. Is there anything else I want to do to this amp? Not really, but yes. I want to do everything to this amp, but at the same time, I want to do nothing else to this amp. Now it's just a case of making sure it still works. Giving it the test. Yes, the test, sir. We must give it the test. I guess I'll put my KTs back into it. Solvetech KT88s, aka possibly Tungsol 6550s. I need to get a set of those one days and find out. Then a couple 803Ss, and then the Tungsol 12AX7, and give us some power. Give us some warm that pupper up. Give us some plug in a cab. Give us some switch it to 4 ohms because it doesn't support 16. And all my 412s are either 4 or 16 ohms. Give us a guitar. There was a guitar. Give us an odd pedal. There was an odd pedal. Can I plunge Monsieur Odd in over here? Yes. Give us this here old circuit test meter that pretty much lives over with my amps. And there's the jack I made for it. That's gonna plug into the bias test jack. And yeah, I don't need this anymore. That needs to go to voltage sense, millivolts. That's a pass-through for, because it's tip ring sleeve, I can detect 2 tubes at a time. I'm not gonna need the pass-through anymore, but whatever. It sounds awfully quiet. Is my bias just that cold right now because I changed something? Hey, there's something wrong. Oh no. Oh no. All right, what did I do wrong? So, not the biggest mistake in the world. I forgot to reconnect this ground line. So the preamp didn't have power. Oh, now we have the trick of getting these 2 conflicting solders to cooperate with each other, sir. Ugh. I just made a mess of this wire. Actually, that must have been linked to more than just the preamp because I wasn't getting any readings in my bias meter. Oh, there we go. Yeah, she's clicking up now. Click it up too high. Bring that back down. I'll bring about 45 milliamps. It's a subtle hum. Kind of the normal amount of hum, not too worried about it. Play a lot of riffs that sound good in this distortion level. Well, it's working. Now, these should be safe to touch because they're millivolts, and then I can just swap over to the other tube. 46 on one, 47 on the other. Our target's 45, I think. I don't even do the math anymore. I just kind of like, 45's good. Fine, I'll do the math. This is a 460 volt amp. Those are 42 watt tubes. And I bias KT88s in this amp at 50%. Yes, I know. 45.6. I know it's supposed to be 70%. But they're KT88s. It's like equivalent to a 25 watt tube at 70%. I find putting KT88s in an amp that's not designed for them, your bias can run away on you if you bias them too hot. That, and I don't know that the amp has quite enough chungus to really push them, but nah, she goes pretty loud. Oh, nice. You know what would help? If I had my voltage meter installed so I could actually figure out what that translates to. It's sure as heck not going to be 460 volts at that current level. I'm hearing some crazy noises. What is going on here? I think my power tubes are hissing. I've never in all my years heard that sound coming from tubes when the amp's not doing anything. Can I sample this? Can you hear that? Can you hear that? It went away. The amp's still on, but it went away. Our bias stayed. I don't even know if I captured it. And my mic was cranked, so that sounded great, I'm sure. Okay, never mind. It's almost like those high volumes got it brewing there, and they're just still shaking up. I don't think it's gonna have anything to do with my capacitor job. Well, anyway, DC 2000 volts. Find me a good ground, bud. This should be a good ground right here. Find me a B+. Well, that's gonna be on the capacitor. 461 volts. And our amperages. Just gotta plop those. This is all plastic, so just plop that in there. Yeah. There's something going up with those tubes, man. I think they're just about done. 419 at 139. 60 watts a tube? Bull crap. You are not giving me 120 watts right now. Well, it's not quiet. I'm tapping from the wrong spot. I'm tapping from the B+. I should be tapping from a tube anode. Like, right delicately, carefully in here. In here. There we go. 455. That actually, the amp doesn't sound too bad with those stock G12L 35 speakers cranked up. The volume, the master volume was at 3.5. It wasn't even at 5. Once you get to 50%, you can hear the power amp starts distorting. Any more than that, it just gets more once you get to 3.5, it's pretty much at its max volume, like actual physical volume. So yeah, if you were playing this live, I don't see going past 3 if you're going for the full distortion, the full preamp distortion that I'm doing. But she sounds pretty good. I swear it sounds a little bit better than I remember it. Maybe that cap is adding a little bit extra I don't know, man. But we're done here. I would really like to try this other transformer, but I really don't feel like butchering on these circuits to, you know, splice this in there. So I'm probably gonna use this transformer. Oh, am I talking loud now? I'm probably gonna use this transformer in a bit of a shootout with one of my other amps that I do butcher, because I have to change out the transformer in my Jet City, and my Jet City can do some pretty good tones. I gotta pair this to the stock transformer, to the transformer that's in one of my trainers, and we'll see how that fends. At any rate, I hope you enjoyed this. Am I gonna do more with this amp? Oh, there isn't much more to say. I'm sure I covered it today. But hey, there's other amp content, so stay tuned. I was gonna say the F word around and find out, but does that even make sense? That'd be a nice tagline, but monetization, right?